Hey everyone, it's John D from Retroware TV and welcome to a new episode of Sold Separately. To start off, I want to say, happy birthday Super Nintendo. This month, August 2011, marks the 20th anniversary of the US release of the Super Nintendo in the United States. So that means that this box right over here was unwrapped on Christmas morning 20 years ago. Holy shit. Anyway, to mark the occasion, this episode of Sold Separately, we're going to look at a controller that was released for the Super Famicom. It is the Ascii Grip. It is a one-handed controller that was primarily used for role-playing games. It had basically the same kind of outline as, well, a Wiimote, except without the motion controls. It has the X and Y buttons on both sides of the control pad in the middle, as well as the A and B buttons on the back. And of course, the L and R buttons down below, and a start and select button. Now, the reason that this controller was put out on the market was primarily for role-playing games, simulation games, strategy games, games where you might want to have one controller in one hand while you're doing the work, maybe taking notes, flipping through a guide on the other hand. Or you could even try to use it for things such as fighting games and like punch your opponent at the same time. It was always a controller I was interested in early on when I saw pictures of it in EGM. This is actually a slightly modified version. There was the Ascii L5, as well as the Ascii Grip, which was released not only for the Super Famicom, but also for the PlayStation as well. This controller, while made for the Super Famicom, has the same controller input because the controller inputs for the Super Famicom and the Super Nintendo were the same. So therefore it can work on a Super Nintendo. So I tested it out, took a look at a few different games. It works relatively well for role-playing games, especially since you don't have to worry about really action-packed, close-contact sort of work where you would want to have two hands at the action. So it actually does work relatively well. You can get it actually for around $15 or so, 15 to 20. I got mine for about 25 shipped from Japan, but it also came with an Ascii Super Famicom game with it. Now, a game that was promoted very highly with this controller was a game by Ascii called Derby Stallion. Derby Stallion and the Derby Stallion series of games are horse racing simulation games. Unless you're really good at Japanese, I don't recommend you play it, but it does make sense that for a game like that, you can use one hand. The box itself has a logo for Derby Stallion right on it, and also comes with a rather large guide, which I believe allows you to fill in forms, which I can only assume have something to do with handicapping your horse or working on your horse in this horse racing simulation. So it would make sense that you're able to use the controller in one hand while writing down the information in another. Now, the controller itself is actually really form-fitting, and it makes sense that the main buttons A and B are at the bottom. So, for the most part, I highly recommend it. It works well, it's a novelty to have, it's relatively inexpensive. I mean, in box with a game for 25 bucks shipped from Japan, I'm sure you can find it even cheaper online. So, for this episode of Sold Separately, I'd like to say thank you very much, and happy birthday, Super Nintendo. Keep watching the website as we will flash back for the 20th anniversary the next coming weeks to Super Nintendo-related reviews, as well as other Super Nintendo items that might appear on the site. So, oh my god, I'm old.